Hi guys, it's another build, or rather mostly painting and weathering of a tank. It's the Trumpeter KV1. I don't know why it said lightweight cast tank on the box art, but it was a heavy tank, famous heavy tank from the first part of the war for the Soviets. The KV stands for Kliment Voroshilov, which was he was the defense minister, a politician for the Soviets at the start of the war, and it became the IS, a series, or the Joseph Stalin series, later on in the war, because he fell out of popularity with Stalin. So it's a very heavy tank. Its only real advantage is that the Germans didn't have anything that could pierce its armour in the first part of the war, so they were just shooting like corks at it, really. But fortunately, it's mechanically it wasn't very good. I say fortunately for the Germans, mechanically it wasn't very good, and the armament, the gun on it wasn't very good either. So I've got it to the usual stage that I get it to, just following the instructions. The instructions are really simple to follow on the Trumpeter model. The wheels went together really nice. I've left the mudguards off because I'm going to do the piece by piece track, but there was a vinyl stretchy track also supplied, which is quite nice. I like to kind of paint the track parts using the tank as a bit of a base, really, because you get the oil effect of spotting and flecking all over the wheels if you lean on it when you're painting the track parts. There's no way of painting those track parts with a brush without getting a fine mist, a fine spray of black paint everywhere. So that's why you could see me doing that. So some copper wire came as part of the kit to be the tow cables. I think there was no photo etch, but there was a few bits of clear plastic at the headlamp, and there was some nice copper wire. So it was a nice kit. Didn't come with any figures, so I'm just going to do it with all the turrets closed, and I'm going to do maybe a small snowy diorama with it in the end, but that won't be part of this video. I've made the KV2 already. I think they were virtually around at the same time. It wasn't like the KV2 was developed out of the KV1 over a period of time. The KV1 just didn't have, when it was fighting in Finland, the KV1 just didn't have the armament to blow up the entrenched and reinforced positions like bunkers. So the KV2 was thrown into service just with a bigger gun, but essentially the same tank. So I've done the KV2 by a Russian maker, Zvezda, and I enjoyed that build, but yeah, I wanted to try this one as well. It just adds another one to my German tanks, because I do have a few now. So I splashed out as well AK Interactive Russian green. I usually just bodge it together and make a rough approximation of it, but it was actually quite a nice shade to use on the final tank. But I found AK Interactive was too watery for brush painting, so my first coat I mixed it with some Vallejo dark green, and then I'll lighten it by using it neat on the second coat, which didn't bother me at all because I'll often darken a first coat anyway a little bit. But yeah, if you're brush painting, leave off the tow cables. I don't know why I put them on, but they both got knocked off as I was painting it. There's not a lot of storage on it. There's not a lot of detail on the actual body. It's just a nice shape. Nice big mud guards. Nice big tracks. So you see, I've done 2 coats of the Russian green, or at least the Russian green mixed with a darker green, and then just the AK Interactive Russian green on top. And then when that's dried, because I'm going to do the hairspray chipping technique with the brush painting, when that's dried, I've done a coat of clear coat varnish, then I've done a coat of the hairspray, cheap hairspray, and I've let that dry completely overnight. And then I'm just going over it with Vallejo white, careful to not dilute it and not to disturb any of the layers that I've just laid down on the surface. Obviously this stage would be cheaper would be easier. Sorry, would be a lot easier to do with an airbrush, but I don't use an airbrush at the moment. And I think you can do decent hairspray chipping with brush painting anyway, if you're careful. So obviously these tanks, you know, the white snow camouflage was added in the field by the soldiers, and then it wore away the longer it was on the tank. So that's the effect I'm going to try and recreate on this one. So the early tanks were used in the Winter War against the Finnish troops, and this, I've seen photographs of this particular tank, you know, using the decals to identify it, and I think it was in the Finnish War, and then later on used against the Germans, but it saw action in 1941. That's when the photographs were from anyway. So yeah, you've got to apply it carefully and not dilute it, but also I kind of let myself be a little bit scruffy with the white, because I would say that I'm going to chip possibly 60% of it off anyway. So if there's any areas where it's a bit thin, or where there's raised detail, I'm not too worried, because I'm going to chip it off using water. There are different chipping effects, guys, that you can buy particular chemicals, particular fluids for, but I've done the hairspray chipping now 3 or 4 times. I've done snow camouflage over green actually, on another tank. I think it was a tank destroyer. Might have been in the SU-52 or the IS-85. I can't remember which one it was, but if you glance back through my videos, it was my second video, I think, my first or second video. Yeah, it certainly is a nice effect. I've also done a T54 with a lighter green over a dark green chipping effect, and that was a nice way of just presenting a lot of weathering on a tank. I'm going to use that again, I think, in the future, but you've got to have the right shades of green to make it work. And then more recently, if you look back, I did the T34-85, and I applied some brown camouflage over the original Russian green body, and then I chipped that as well back to the Russian green. These were just applied in the field, these effects. I decided to be a bit looser as well with the mud guards, just to put the majority of the thicker paint on the main body of the tank, and where the mud guards are, it's worn quite thin, and worn back to the green quite a lot, just because that's the soldiers running up and down, the tank riders and the tank crew running up and down the fenders, and storage being chucked on it and whatever else, you know, going through trees and going through mud and getting wet with rain and stuff like that. This is the bit of the model build that I enjoy the most, you know, trying to make the out-of-the-box model just look a bit more realistic and have a bit more of a story. first coat did dry a bit grey, so I'm going to do 2 coats of the white, just so that where it does show and it's not chipped back, it shows as a nice flat colour and it's not too blotchy. But you can see that I applied earlier on some plaster with some additives and a bit of colour in it, just some thin plaster to the tracks. I've done piece by piece tracks a couple of times now where it's been okay. I think twice with Trumpeter models actually, where it's been pretty good fit. But like the old Zvezda kits, this model, I found as I went around the tracks, the final piece was too big. Too small, sorry. One piece was too small for the gap, but 2 pieces were much too big for the gap. So you kind of have to rearrange them all and see where you went wrong. But the plaster is there just to hide the fact that there's, I think I went with the 2 pieces in the end and tried to loosen, not have the track as tight, so that it kind of worked, but there is a bit of a ridge where one of the pieces is a little bit stuck out. I still thought the challenge of doing it piece by piece was better than using the stretchy vinyl ones, even though they're a lot easier. And I've got 2 sets of tracks now, which is quite handy as spares. So I saw somebody on YouTube recently using these cleaners for between your teeth. There's kind of like a little wire brush, and he was using it to scratch and chip the paint. So I did a little bit of that, but I think the way that I'm doing it now, it needs water to really activate the chipping fluid, the hairspray underneath the paint layer. But I did do some scratching with the wire, with the little wire brush that you can see there. So if you've never done it, guys, I mean, you just like I say, you put the clear coat over the colour that you want to see through the chipping, and then you put the hairspray when that's dried. Yeah, you can use 1 or 2 coats of hairspray, and then when that's completely dried, you paint over it with the colour that's going over the top, and the effect is then achieved by adding water on the brush and scrubbing off the top paint, and it comes off in a way that really looks realistic, like boots have worn the top layer off, and just day-to-day scuffs, and then you go as hard as you want to go, really. Don't expect it to be instant. The water has to kind of get through to the hairspray layer, and then the paint surface is not very stable where a spot of hairspray has landed, and it comes off. The result is that you have the kind of foam of dirty water on the model at the end, and you have acrylic paint fragments. So what I do at the end is just give it a quick rinse under the tap, just to clean off anything that's on top of the surface. and obviously I don't rub or touch the tank when it's wet again. I just leave it to dry completely overnight. You look through my videos, guys, if you like Soviet tanks, because I've done a few now. And I think the thing that I like about them the most is that they are big brutes, and that you can weather them quite a lot, because they had a tough war. They kept going and kept going and kept going. The KV1 outclassed everything at the start of the war, until the Tiger tank came in. And it was the result of what Russia had learned in the Spanish Civil War, that a tank needed heavy armament to break through. So in the end, the KV1 became the victim of that, because it never had its engine upgraded, and it just had its armour upgraded all the time, especially when the Tiger came into the battlefield. So it just got slower and slower and slower as the war went on. And in the end, the T-34 surpassed it. But yeah, the KV1 was used right through the war. I think the KV2 only had a short lifespan, and then it became the IS-2 after some upgrades. And I've done an IS-2 video. I really enjoyed that video, actually. Ploughing through the snow. If you want to look back for that one. Jump ahead to putting the decals on. Like I say, I've found pictures of this actual tank, and the decal that I'm putting on just now is actually should be in white, but they've obviously included the black one in case you were doing a white tank. There is white versions of the KV1. So I thought that was useful for the model maker, so I just went with that, sacrificed accuracy there just to fit the paint scheme that I wanted to do. You see there that I've only dry brushed a little bit of white over the wheels. I've not continued the paint scheme onto the wheels. I've just dry brushed it really, so it all ties in. But yeah, the decals, the Trumpeter decals, were a little bit fragile. The top of the three snapped off on both sides, actually, just from being slid off the carrier paper. So take it easy, guys, with the decals on this one. But yeah, really pleased with how it's going. I've not finished a diorama for it just yet, but it's going to be, like I say, it's going to be in the snow, this one. Did a little bit of oil Pinwash around the vents, the engine vents, the exhaust outlets, which are behind the engine vents, the engine access hatch, which is in the middle there, the domed hatch, and then around the fenders. But I didn't go too mad because I didn't want to lose the white snow effect camouflage. just applying the colour there, a mixture of yellow, ochre and black, and then just thinning it out with white spirit and letting it move around on the surface until it just fills the gaps and the spaces that I want it to fill. So yeah guys, more or less finished. Tiny bit of weathering with the mud and sand effects by Vallejo as well. But yeah, you know, let me know what you think guys. Let me know if you've made this model, or even better, if you made a KV1 by Tamiya or Zvezda, you know, how it compares in terms of detail. Yeah, if you've done any chipping, if you've done any hairspray chipping like this, I think it's easy enough to do with a brush, even though people will say you should have an airbrush. As long as you're careful, it's easy enough to do with this in this way. So some pictures off my Instagram, and showing you a bit more detail. And please like and subscribe guys if you like this kind of stuff, and look back for my previous videos. Cheers.